What is going on, everybody? Happy hump day here from DSM-Media. We are live on the Phaithful Phanatics show on DSM's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channel. Guys, first and foremost, as always, if you are new to the channel, if you are watching on Twitter, do yourself a favor, do us a favor. Make sure to first hit that follow button on the Twitter account, but then find your way on over to the YouTube channel specifically. It is the best and only spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host and be interactive with us. I am one half of them, Dylan Davis. To my left today, my faithful co-host, Scotty. We already broke down the Phillies clinching the National League East. We already broke down the Eagles winning in New Orleans and improving 2-1. So on today's show, we're going to have a little bit more fun with things. We're going to look ahead when it comes to the Phillies. We're going to look at how they can attain a first-round bye and avoid playing a 3-game series in the wild card round with what do we got left, Scotty? 4 games left in the regular season for the Titans. Any combination of 2 Phillies wins or Brewers losses gets the Phillies a first-round bye. The Dodgers lost last night as well, even though the Phillies did. So they're still in reach of that number 1 seed when it comes to LA. So a lot to discuss from that standpoint. And then the Eagles. We're going to talk studs and duds today, guys. Drop your studs and duds, top 3, top 5, however many you want to get into. We're going to give you our thoughts on who's been great for the Eagles through 3 weeks and who's been a pretty big disappointment for the Eagles through the first 3 weeks of the season. Subscribe. And once we get enough of you guys in here, we got a little bit of an announcement for you guys when it comes to doing something for you as well as doing something for us. That is celebrating a National League East title and celebrating a 3rd straight Red October. We might just be doing a giveaway over the next week. So subscribe, comment. We'll get into the details later on in the show, but stay tuned for that. We'll be doing a giveaway to celebrate another Red October. Scotty, what is going on, man?
Happy hump day, my man. I am happy to be here. I told you I was excited for this show. I think when the Eagles win, it just makes the week go a lot smoother. So, yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk some more fun segments. We don't have really much to dig in, like game-wise, I guess you could say. Yeah. Like last night, we're not going to talk about last night's Phillies game. That was a hangover game, right? Like they were getting the alcohol fluids
right.
out of
I mean, when Tanner Banks, Taijuan Walker, and Colby Allard are trying to go out and win a ball game for you with Garrett Stubbs,
still got the Taijuan Walker experience.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a ride, man, and not
he never fails, man.
That doesn't make it right. We could talk about that, right? But fortunately, it is was the last time the Phillies will have to use that 5th starter spot, whether it is a bullpen game where you see Taijuan Walker. That is it for the rest of the 2024 season. So, yeah, that itself is a nice celebration and deserves a round of applause.
Do not have to see Taijuan Walker again. Hopefully, right? Hopefully, Rob Thompson doesn't.
Yeah. I don't think. I mean, we'd be reaching new levels of Nick Sirianni stupid at that point.
Fair enough, brother. But yeah, man, I'm happy to be here on this hump day. We'll obviously be back here on Friday, right before the weekend, before we'll get into that Eagles-Bucks game. So we won't get too much into that today either. But just once again, like you said, a little bit more fun stuff. Talk about who's been playing well. And I think this is interesting because there's a big name that could go maybe either way. Maybe he escapes the list because he's kind of just been so I don't know if you want to call it middling, but we're going to talk about it all mixed in there, and I think that's going to be what makes it fun here, man. But where do you want to go first? You want to go Titans? You want to go Eagles? Where do you want to go?
Let's start with this Phillies game because yesterday we spent the bulk of the show talking Eagles, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, all of that, and we only dedicated like 10-ish minutes to the Phillies celebration. So let's give them a little bit more time today and a little bit more celebration of winning that NL East title for the first time in 13 years. I said it yesterday jokingly, but it is the truth. That is 50% of my total life up to this point. 13 years since they've won a National League division title, and that is half of my overall life so far. So you got to celebrate it when it comes around, man, and that's what we're going to do.
Fair enough.
Don't fear, brother. I don't think that is anywhere near the realm of a possibility outside of the Phillies being down 9-0 in the 5th inning, and they don't want to waste the bullpen. And let's live to fight another day. That is the only time you might see 99 get some action on the mound in this upcoming Red October. So it's okay. It's okay, man. But yeah, whenever this comes around, you got to celebrate it. You got to take it in, man. And this team, I said it to you yesterday. They're one of my favorites, if not my favorite team in Philadelphia sports history. They were up there last year. They were probably my favorite. And this team, this core just continues to grow. It was actually pretty funny. Like, I just feel like we got to meet John Middleton. I for a second got a picture with him at the only game I went to this year. Got to meet the owner of the Phils, and then he goes out in the locker room and says, "I want my fucking trophy back." You feel like you're along for the ride when it comes to this team. And that's why I can't wait for playoff baseball to start. However, there's 4 more games left to play. 1 against the Cubs at home today, and then 3 on the road against the Nationals to wrap up the season.
Yeah.
Like I said to start the show, the magic number to clinch a bye is 2 for the Phillies. That is any combination of Phillies wins and Brewers losses. Obviously, the Phillies lost last night and the Brewers won, so not making things too easy with 5 remaining, man. But I am confident that I don't want to say I have no concern, no worry that they don't get this done, but I'm pretty confident that the Phillies themselves are going to win 2 of the final 4 and not even leave it up for Milwaukee to have to lose a game.
Yeah.
But I believe Milwaukee gets the Mets to wrap up the season, and the Mets are fighting for their lives right now for that 3rd and final wild card spot. So that's not going to be an easy series for Milwaukee. So any combination of a win and a loss for the Phillies and Brewers gets that bye. And that's the biggest goal, right? Because we set out this season, and the players set the goal, and you and I back in fucking March talked about the next step for this team is to what? To be that dominant team throughout the regular season, to compete with the Atlanta Braves. And yes, I know the Braves got pulverized by injuries this year. The Phillies as well, but the Braves were a lot more long-standing, right? Season-ending to a lot of big names for them. And I know that all occurred, but nonetheless, the Phillies were that dominant team this entire summer, this entire season, and they're still tied or a game behind the best record in baseball. They've done all that, but it doesn't really mean much to me, Scotty, if you're still playing in a 3-game set in the wild card round. That's what you need to be avoiding. Am I scared of anybody they'd see? If they had to play the Mets or they had to play the Braves in that wild card round, am I scared? No, I'm not. But I can tell you, I think everyone would tell you, I'd rather take the Braves route of things, even though they complained about the last 2 years. So the 5 days off really can affect you and get you out of rhythm, and that's the advantage the wild card teams have now in this new format. No. I'll take the days off and a 5-game series instead of anything can happen 3-game series against a division rival. So this season, I don't want to say means nothing. They're in the playoffs. They did win the division, and they can beat anybody when it comes to the playoffs. But it means very little to win that division if you don't get one of the top 2 seeds for me, man.
No, I completely agree. And you look at the season that the Phillies have had, there's no reason that they don't end the season with that type of record and that type of standing. They've been the best team in baseball for most of this season. And going into the postseason, you would like to feel that way, right? And I think the only way to do so is at least having that wild card bye, man. And I think it's a confidence thing along with everything that you said. Just building that confidence going into the postseason and being rightfully where they belong, I think is a big thing here as well. And we've seen it in wild card, man. It's 3 games. It's not a series where the best team always wins. And I think that's the big thing when you're talking about a best of 3. That's an opportunity if a team comes in hot, the Phillies are cold for maybe 1 or 2 games only in that series, and all of a sudden they're out of the postseason. So I do think it is a big deal, and I think it's bigger than anything you could talk about when it comes to like momentum and like, kind of keeping your flow of things going into the postseason.
Yeah.
I think it's bigger than that. I think when you got guys like Wheeler, who is over the age of 30, right? Bryce Harper over the age of 30. These are guys that can use that rest and get positives out of it. Compared to a younger team like Atlanta, I know they have veterans on their roster as well in those seasons where they had the bye, but you do have some of their younger stars that are mixed in there. Well, and maybe that impacts them a little bit more when it comes to just the flow of the game. But I think for a team like the Phillies especially, they could use that extra rest, and that would only do good for them. I think Bryce Harper specifically isn't going to complain about extra days of rest, right? And the pitching staff certainly isn't. So, I would love to see them do it, and I'm fairly confident that they will. They've put themselves in a great position to do so, where they only have to win 2 games against the Nationals and the Cubs, right? You got 1 against the Cubs, 3 against the Nationals. So they're in position to do so. I see no reason why they shouldn't,
No.
I think for all the people, to your point out there, that are like, maybe we need to keep playing and just not have any downtime. No, I don't think that this Phillies team specifically is like that. It has
that's an Atlanta Braves problem, man. That is not a baseball problem. That is an Atlanta Braves problem. Like the year we lost in the World Series, did they play in the wild card round? Gosh, I'm trying to remember now. The Astros might have actually played in the wild card round that year. I'm trying to remember if they had won their division and what seed they were. But regardless, that's a Braves problem. I don't think that's a baseball problem overall. And as you're talking there, I'm sitting here thinking the mindset has changed for us and for the team because the expectations have changed. See, the last 2 years we were just happy to be back. We were just happy to be there, and we knew how talented this lineup was. And hey, I'll take our lineup up against anybody. We got hot and we made 2 really fun runs. But now the mindset's changed. Yeah. Now we're the best team in baseball. We're the best team in the National League. We want every advantage. We want to get every advantage because we played well enough all year long to put ourselves in this position. And that advantage is missing and skipping a 3-game set where you said anything can happen. It's not always the best team goes out and wins. You lose game 1 of a 3-game set to the New York Mets or the Atlanta Braves, and buddy,
the stove is on, right? Like
things are going to
on. Like the heat is turned up.
Yeah, things are going to start to get tight. All right.
Yeah.
So you want to avoid that by every stretch of the imagination, because of the position you guys have put yourself in this year. With that said, and I totally agree, TR, and I do believe they're going to.
They will. Yeah.
Now,
I wanted to ask you this before you get into the next day, because I'm looking at the league, right, and it's looking like no team is going to hit that 100-win mark.
No, yeah.
How long has it been since that? Is that like a regular? How long has it been since that's happened?
Off the top of my head, I do not know, but it is a conversation I've been seeing. That it's. I don't know if I should call it rare, but recently it's pretty rare, right? Because even in the just if I can go back the last 5 years, let's say, the Braves or the Dodgers have consistently been 100+ win teams.
Hit 100
out in the American League, while the Astros were winning division after division. They are 100+ win teams. The Yankees have won 100+ games, and that's it has been some time since not a single team has reached that 100-win mark. But I think that just goes back to all the conversations we had back in July when this team's getting crushed for their poor stretch. And I just look around and I go, when it gets to September, funny how we still have the best record in baseball on September 12th, right? Like, because it's been that way for every team. It's almost like it's difficult to go and win 100+ games, specifically this year. So, and that what people I don't think realize, Scotty, and to kind of attribute it to league wide, is you got to remember the format changed. Was it last year, or I forget if it just started this year or it goes back to last year, where there's much more interleague play. You play everybody now. In the past, You didn't play everybody from the American League if you were the Phillies. You played American League teams, but not every single team in the American League.
Yeah, which is
and that's
weird.
changed. You played your division more in the past, so there were more opportunities to create separation from those teams. Not a whole. You still play your division a lot, but you played your division a little bit
if you can
more in
beat
the
those
past.
teams, you'll beat them again, right? It's less variance.
So the format
in
in baseball has changed, and that could definitely attribute it to because you don't have the scouting reports, right? And you when you play the Royals when you play the Royals for 6 games this year or however. That's the thing I'm trying to remember. Do we play everybody twice? Or is it just you play every American League team at least once and some twice? Because I'm trying to think back. Like, no, it just has to be once, right? Fuck, I don't remember.
Yeah, I would have to look it up. I'm looking at the numbers for the 100-win seasons. And it says over the course of 145 seasons from 1876 to 2023, excluding 1981, 1994, and 2020, 119 teams have won 100 or more games.
And 2020 was the COVID shortened year.
Right. So there's been 4 seasons since 1876 where a team hasn't won 100 plus games. So speaks to.
Then I guess we can call it pretty rare, bud.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just thought about that as I was looking at win totals across the league, and it did seem pretty rare, but I guess it is.
No, you are spot on.
But I know I know I interrupted you. What did you want to get into next? I know we wanted to talk.
No. I was just we're sitting here talking about the just the overall buy, and that is the goal. But something that the Phillies are still obviously chasing are the Dodgers for that overall number 1 seed, because what TR is saying is he's not talking about a bye. He's talking about home field throughout, and that comes with the number 1 seed in the National League. And
Dodgers are up on us right now by half a game.
Up by half a game. We've played one more, and that game was lost. But you have to remember, we won the season series, 5-1 against the Dodgers? So that gives the Phillies the tiebreaker. So if the Phillies and the Dodgers finish with the same record, the Phillies get the number 1 overall seed in the National League. So while we could sit here and go, oh, wow, the Brewers lost, we just have to win 1 game. Yeah, that's all well and good, and that is a goal. Yeah. But the Phillies have to take care of business in their final 4 against lesser teams
to stay ahead of the Dodgers.
Ultimately go catch the Dodgers, because the Phillies lost last night. The Dodgers lost last night on a triple play, mind you. That was, I don't know if you saw that clip. The Padres clinch a postseason berth. I think it was 4-2 in the bottom of the 9th or top of the 9th or whatever. And the Dodgers had first and second with nobody out and Ohtani on deck. And I think it was Rojas hit into a triple play to end it, dude. Ohtani doesn't get up. Dodgers lose. Padres headed to the postseason. So that was pretty wild to see. But yeah, they are still only half a game behind the LA Dodgers, and that's really the goal, right?
And the Dodgers have the Padres, so they have 2 more games against the Padres and then 3 against the Rockies to finish the season.
Right.
So fairly even.
I want to look a little bit away from standings, right? I want to look a little bit away from the what ifs, and I want to talk about when we get here. You and I were having a conversation pre-game or pre-show, excuse me.
We about to play.
We were having a conversation about this pitching staff, because it is something I brought up to you yesterday. That is the strength of this team right now. And what I mean by strength is it's the difference maker for me. Like, I brought this up to you. If the Phillies lose, if the Phillies do not get to a World Series, or they lose in the World Series, it is my prediction, it's my early belief that will be because of the bats. That will be because of a slump. The bats go cold, and they're not good enough to go and win it all at that point. But if they are to win one, we know the bats have to be good enough, but the bats are going to do what they're paid to do. The difference maker is going to be the staff. It is going to be a Christopher Sanchez. It is going to be the bullpen that has been lights out for so long this whole entire season, outside of a small sample size, small stretch. So with that, I want to talk situations. And in a 7-game series, 5's too tricky. 5 I don't have to worry about, but 7 NLCS and potential World Series matchups. What are you doing? And I want to hear from you guys in the comments. TR, whoever else is watching, comment on the YouTube channel. Who are you starting in game 2 in a 7-game series? 2 and 3. Because, yep, and I think he just hit on it right there with that one comment. In a 7-game series, the game 3 starter is most likely to pitch a game 7. To his point, though, so I think he's going a little bit different here, Scotty. All right, so,
Nah,
he's going different, but it's both, right? So at the bottom, he says Sanchez at home always, but game 7 would be at home. So the reason I bring this up is, would you rather have Nola or Sanchez pitch game 2 at home of the NLCS or World Series, and then the other one gets game 3, the first road game of that set? But if it were to get to a critical winner-go-home game 7, it's more than likely that game 3 starter is going to be on the mound for game 7. So I would set it up where Nola is my game 3 starter, Christopher Sanchez is my number 2. But I want to throw in a little caveat here. We've all kind of gotten to this point. I think TR's comment, he just skipping over him, gets us to this point.
Yeah.
But we have a guy by the name of Ranger Suarez, who for the first 10 to 11 starts of his campaign this year, we thought, oh my God, he might win a Cy Young. Oh my God. Yeah. He could be game 2 starter. I could trust him in a game 7. And then things just continue to go like that up until his injury and then returning from his injury. And he is such a wild card.
Yeah.
Because, go to TR's last point. I don't know if I can trust him or maybe even trust him after one time through the lineup, because that velocity dips and things just start to go to hell all of a sudden. But the reason I call him a wild card is because always in the back of your mind, you think, man, what if?
Let me ask you this.
You got lights out Ranger Suarez in game 4 on the road of the NLCS, which is exactly what this team would need to catch. Like, dude, if you get Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez to pitch well for you in the postseason, this team is walking to a World Series. He's such a wild card.
How do you view it? Do you view it as they need 4 legitimate starters in the postseason?
No.
And the reason I ask that is because do you think you talk about the velocity going down in the middling innings, right? Is Ranger Suarez, do you just use him as that like utility, that bullpen, that closer sometimes? Yeah. Does he just kind of revert back to that role of kind of what he was in the past postseasons? I don't know. There is part of me, man, that does there is still like an ounce of trust there with Ranger. Like there's a deep part of me that believes big moment Ranger can and will show up because he's done it so much in the past. But the numbers don't lie over the last half of the season when he's returned from the injury. It has not been good. So it is a tough situation. I do just wonder, do you kind of mix it up with him in a sense, maybe not work him as a full starter?
And that's the wild card. That's the Joker in the deck.
But
I had no idea.
You're in great shape if you can, though. So I guess that's your point. That's what we got to find out. But
and I'll say this: as much as it sucks on the road and hurts to have Ranger go down this road and be in this slump or whatever you want to call it, if Christopher Sanchez wasn't as good as he was this season, that changes the dynamic on what to do this postseason, if that makes sense. Because before, it was locked into your mind that you had Wheeler, Nola, Ranger, and then Sanchez was a 4th. And he was that wild card. He was that guy that maybe you bring him in the 4th inning and he can get you through 4 and 5 or 4, 5, 6, or you can bring him out of the bullpen, whatever. But since Sanchez has been so good, it's kind of covered their ass that Ranger has been the one to
Yeah.
struggle, because now it's just flipped. And like you said, if it's almost at the point where if you get anything positive out of Ranger Suarez in a postseason, it's a bonus now, which was not the expectation when the year started and 2 months into the season. So the pitching is going to be what wins them a World Series. I'm just trying to work my way into Rob Thompson's brain and think like a manager and what I would do and what he can do for this team and put them in a situation. Because
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Who are your locked in bullpen guys?
Strom, Hoffman, Kerkering, Estevez. That's 4.
Yeah.
I know he's going to give Alvarado a chance. I already know it's going to happen. And I'm going to have a fucking heart attack the moment he decides to pull the trigger on it. Which is just such another 180, man, because 2 years ago, Jose Alvarado, and even last year, was just a guy that you could trust no matter what.
Yeah, especially in big spots.
Yeah, and now, like, you almost need him to get right, because that's just having a 5th guy. But you got to remember, Scotty, see, that's where – let's go back to the Diamondbacks from last year, man, making that World Series run and knocking us out. What was their formula? Their starters get you 6, and then the same 3 came out 7, 8, 9. So I theoretically shouldn't have to worry too much about
1 inning each game.
Yeah, that was the formula for them. And you have 4 guys that you can trust anywhere
possibly
from that
to
point.
get you through 5 to 6.
You can get to 6, 7, 8, 9. Anywhere in that formula works. The issue is always going to be in a 7-game series, that 4th game. Right? Because and maybe even that 3rd game
going to be a full
because like
game.
Sanchez got extended. Sanchez was an all-star. Sanchez should have the leash to pitch like he's pitching a full game.
Yeah.
Not like what Rob did with Ranger in the postseason last year, where it was one time through the rotation, basically, and then yank them before anything bad happens. You are killing your bullpen at that point.
Yeah. And then you can't afford to have them go multiple games.
Sanchez should have the leash, man. And if that's the case, then that bullpen is able to be used the way that formula can work. But if in game 3 or in game 4, you're just trying to get your starter through 3 or 4 innings, and from the 5th inning on, you're handing it over to the bullpen, you are killing what we're trying to do in games 5, 6, 7, etc. So we'll see. We'll see what Rob decides to do, man.
The good thing, he seems to have a few options here that he could go with that could possibly work. So
correct. And that's not to say they're not like Carlos Estevez may give me a heart attack as well. Like he could be rocky, man, but he just has hard stuff, dude. He throws 99, 100. Like that's what you want in the 9th inning of a playoff game. Like
I remember what I wanted to ask you, because we're talking about Alvarado, we're talking about Ranger. How untypical, I guess, there's a better word that I could use there. How untypical would it be for Ranger to turn it on in the postseason, or Alvarado to turn it around that quickly? Like, how abnormal is that for specifically a pitcher? We're not talking about a batter getting off the nod, right? Like finally gets a hit and he breaks through. It's not like that. So how much of a possibility is it that Ranger could look completely different than what he's looked the second half of this season?
Well, I'll answer this question. Let me just check on things right here because I believe I know the answer. Or no, it is Sanchez tonight. Excuse me. Sorry. What game? Ranger pitches tomorrow night. That is gonna play a big role, a big factor in what Ranger Suarez you're getting in the postseason. And why I say that, you mentioned those 2 guys specifically. It is a confidence. It's a physical thing. Obviously, what if Ranger just can't keep the velo up after the first time through? What if when he hits the fourth inning, his body, his arm, whatever that injury is, nothing's 100%, and he can't pump 94 in the fifth inning anymore this year? Like maybe that's just the case, and it's never getting fixed. But it's also a confidence thing, man. And if Ranger Suarez can go out tomorrow night and let's say clinch a bye, right? Let's say Sanchez wins tonight. We're a game away from clinching, and Ranger goes on the road Friday night and gives you 6 scoreless, 6-1 run against the Nationals. The Phillies get a bye. That's confidence heading into the biggest spot of the season, which is going to be the playoffs. And that's what a lot of this will be for me when it comes to Ranger, because you mentioned the just stoicness. Like Rob talked about in 22, the heart rate, it never elevates. He's always calm, cool, and collected. He's Mr. Cool. And that's great. Yeah. And maybe the ticker stays Teddy. Maybe the ticker stays steady. But maybe up here, things get rolling when things aren't going well and things are spinning. And I need a confident Ranger Suarez, because that's the difference in his outings, man. And again, maybe it's purely physical. Maybe he does not have it after 3 or 4 innings. That velo just drops, and it's BP out there for the Diamondbacks or for the Padres or whoever they're going to see. But no, I don't. Basically, to answer your question, I don't think it would be a shock if he's able to turn it around. I don't think it would be. It's just I'll know tomorrow night.
Yeah, you'll see where
they're off tomorrow. It's Friday. It's Friday night.
Where his confidence level is. Yeah. But I just have a weird feeling that Ranger can come through in the big spot, man.
It would be huge, man. And again, I think Rob needs it just as much as he does. Like I think Rob needs to see that hey, this guy can do this in the 6th inning, in the 5th inning still.
Yeah.
So.
Because otherwise, where is that trust coming from in the postseason?
Right.
So, it's a great point.
Think about this, Scotty. We talked about the formula and how they have 4 guys that you can rely on in the back end of this bullpen, and your starters can just get you into the 6th or through 6. You're looking very, very good. But if in the Sanchez and or Ranger starts, you're pulling them after 4, you're pulling them with 1 out in the 5th, then that means Wheeler and Nola both have to shove in their starts every time they're on the mound. And then that creates more pressure. And then maybe Nola gets Suarez or
one
Sanchez
of them has to show.
Has to be reliable
that pressure off
and
Nola.
Get you through 5 into the 6 innings of the postseason. That's what's going to be majorly key for this team. Yeah,
I think they can do it, man. We should have that confidence in them, right?
What do you think of the platoon? The platoon. Austin Hayes returns last night from that kidney infection he had. When they traded for him, man, Rob said he's going to be an everyday player. We're going to be platooning other areas. Now, with how much time he missed, I don't know if that's going to be the case. You have Marsh, you have Hayes, you have Rojas in the outfield. You have Edmundo Sosa in the infield when it comes to hitting versus lefties. What do you think of that in the postseason? Because it's something that Rob's continued the last 2 years. Even in the World Series, man, Edmundo Sosa was playing for Bryson Stott because
that's what I was going to say. He's going to be platooning with Bryson Stott, and then so you would have Hayes and Marsh in the outfield for the most part, right, between righties and lefties.
Is it okay to suggest that this year he's kind of in a win-win spot? And I know people are still going to complain if the replacements don't produce at all, but Bryson Stott did not do nearly enough at the plate this year
to earn a full-time role.
To suggest, and why is Edmundo playing today? And if anything, Edmundo has been so much better at the plate than what I thought he was when we originally traded for him 2 years ago. So Edmundo's a lot better in the box. Stott hasn't been as good. I don't think he's going to get crushed as much for that. Unless Bryson Stott opens the postseason on a tear and then 4 games in, he goes, Bryson, take a seat. Because then I think people might riot if
Yeah.
Stott is
But
going
that's on
off and
Stott
then
to
boom.
make that happen,
Yeah.
though. That's on Stott to make that happen ultimately, and then we have that discussion when that happens.
Correct.
So, like, right now, I do think, like, why not? I think why not go into the postseason, and try what you've been doing most of the season. That doesn't mean bring all the extra stuff in.
No.
But I think when you're talking about Martian Hayes and you're talking about Stott and Sosa, I think why not? You look at what they've done in the past, and we've watched the bats go cold by doing the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Not doing the platoon type of situation. So maybe the bats don't go cold if you have a little bit more, risk within
Yeah.
platoon in them, right? If you have a little bit more stress on Bryson Stott, maybe that's the kick in the ass that he needs in the postseason to get his shit together and be more consistent. So I don't mind, trying something, especially if Stott is struggling like he tended to do in the regular season. If Marsh is, not in a groove himself, giving Hayes a chance to give you some extra power back there. I don't see a problem with that. I don't know, man. I'm going back and forth because I do get it. It's a rhythm thing, and it is just
Yep.
that comfortability of having the same lineup every night. You know who's going after you, you know who's going before you. But I feel like we've tried that in the past, man, and it's bit us. Obviously it's been on some of the bigger bats that go cold, but I think you look at Sosa and what he's been able to do this season. He's been a spark plug at times, man.
Yeah.
Even Cody Clemens has been a spark plug for this team at times this year. And I do believe Hayes has the power that he could be a spark plug at times in the outfield as well at the back of that
That
lineup.
dude,
So
see, that
I
just
do
I
feel
know
like,
that shouldn't get me excited, but even those 3 names, 4 names,
yeah,
however they're mixed up, gives me even more confidence in this team. Go back to the World Series year. Who the fuck did we have to pinch hit if we needed a big spot
exactly,
and not a great bat? What if we had Johan
exactly,
Rojas, let's say, at the plate in the World Series? I know he wasn't up then. I'm just saying, if he was up to bat late in the game, down 1, runner on second or
yeah.
third with 2 outs, right? Did we have Derek Hall, I think, up that year? Was that who we had up to and Mundo was hitting like 170 that year coming over from St. Louis. Like now you have an Edmundo Sosa, you have a Cody Clemens, you have one of Brandon Marsh or Austin Hayes. If you start Sosa, Stott's going to be, you know what I mean? Like there's
Like
going to be
last
so many
year,
combinations of guys that can step up and
yeah.
come up with a big time at bat.
Last year in the postseason, we were working with Christian
Pache?
Pache, yeah,
Yep.
and Jake Cave.
Jesus. See,
Yeah, some of the pinch hitter. Jake
I
Cave
mean,
played in 3 games. He had 3 at bats. Pache played in 4 games. He had 7 at bats, and Edmundo Sosa played in 2. He only had 1 at bat.
that's wild. That is wild.
So there was no variance in what we could attack with in the
Nope.
postseason. Like
Nope.
when you look back at it, man, it's interesting. It's interesting, and I do think it gives a little bit more of a vote of confidence going
Yeah.
forward with
Here's
platooning,
what I
man.
would say when it comes to Topper and handling all this, right?
Yeah,
Assuming that like Cody Clemens makes the playoff roster, which he should, etc. Like when it comes to last night, when it comes to that 5th starter spot, and everyone starts attacking Rob, how can you throw him out there again? Well, dude, what's the alternative? Like this is the hand. These are the cards he's dealt. It's Taijuan Walker, or it's Kobe Allard, it's Tanner Bet. Like it's any combination of these guys. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So like,
yeah.
stop with that. However, he's got a nice hand when it comes to how to maneuver and operate this lineup and pinch hitting and in big time picking your spots. Like he's got weapons to use this year that he hasn't had in the past. I mean, Jake Cave and Christian Pache, that is crazy to think about in regards to who you could have this year when you
Yeah.
say like Austin Hayes, Cody Clemens, and Edmundo Sosa, or Bryson
Give me
Stott's on the bench.
give me
Like,
Weston Wilson or Cal Stevenson over Jake Cave, man. I don't know. But yeah, I would agree. I think we're in a much better spot. Do you think Cody Clemens gets mixed in there?
in terms of starting, no.
Not start. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, good point. Good point. Because the infield's not going to get moved.
I think Cody Clemens could have 3 to 4 key
Pinch
at
hits.
bats throughout a whole postseason run, meaning like pinch hit in the bottom of the eighth, top of the eighth type of situation, and jump starts an inning with a double down, something like that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean I think his primary is what, first, and well, obviously we know who's standing over at first base. That's not
Right.
happening.
Right.
And then I think he can also play third. Well, that's not happening. So I really
Right.
don't think there's really any area for
There's no
Cody to
room
come
there.
in unless it's like to pinch hit for Rojas in the 8th or 9th, and then they maneuver defensively where Marsh slides over and Hayes comes in, et cetera, different things like that for defensive purposes.
Now,
But
do you think and I'm curious here, like, is it just Marsh and
hold on, my bad. You were
slipped my head.
Your mic was
Hayes. Yeah, is it?
You're good. I can hear you now. Your mic was skipping through that question, so I couldn't hear the full
Interesting.
question.
Let me get it closer to my face.
So what was that?
No, what I was asking, between, so do you think it's just going to be Marsh and Hayes platooning, or do you think they will mix Hayes in there with Rojas?
No, I do not think Johan Rojas is like a start everyday guy. I think it's going to be a combination of those three where Hayes starts in left and Marsh is in, and Johan is in center. I think you get Marsh in center and something in Letley. I don't think it's Johan by any stretch. To me, man, you know my thoughts. And I know he's missed a lot of time, and even in his short stint here, he hasn't been the best at the plate. But from a batting perspective, your best lineup is with Brandon Marsh and Austin Hayes. Now, defensively, your best lineup is Johan Rojas and Brandon Marsh. So Topper's going to have to maneuver through all of that and figure out when to pull the trigger on certain things. But that's the point of the depth, right? That's the point of the trade deadline, and that's the point of having options and figuring out and pressing the right buttons. And he's done that for a majority of the season when it comes to the lineup. Not always the pitching staff, but when it comes to the lineup and pitch hitting, for the most part, he does the right thing. So
do you think it's
very
more
interesting to see how he uses it?
Do you think it's more just between Rojas and Hayes rather than Marsh even? Because like when you say that, the idea in my head is like pick a strength, right? You're gonna pick fielding as your strength that day, then it would be Marsh.
And Marsh is a common denominator in both, right? I hear
exactly.
you.
Exactly.
But no, I think when it comes to left-handed pitching, you might get Hayes and Rojas as the righties, and Marsh is off the day. I don't know, man. I don't know what he's going to do because, again, I think Marsh is pretty similar to Stott at that point. Like, what did he do this year against lefties to really prove that you can trust him against lefties in a big-time moment? He's got a couple hits. He's got a homer or two off of lefties. I understand that. But I remember Brandon Marsh went through, like, a 25 at-bat stretch without a hit versus a lefty. And at one point, he's hitting like 176 against lefties. Like, he did not exceed expectations against left-handed pitching this year. So, I don't know what Topper is going to do. But again, I love the depth so much more than we've had in past years because, Scotty, think about in the past, man. Rojas or Pache's hitting left-handed pitching. What is that giving you at all in the 8 or 9 hole? At all, either one of them, really. But now, you might have Rojas for the first, 6 innings of a game, 7 innings of a game. You might get 2 or 3 at-bats, but then Austin Hayes comes in, something. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. This is, it's a tough point, man. It is a really, really tough point because it can win you ball games in the postseason.
Like, is his defense better than, bringing Hayes in for his bat? You know what I mean? Like, is it? I don't know. It's a tough equation. It's a tough equation because maybe Rojas is better defensively than anything you could ever bring in at the bat. Like, maybe it doesn't matter at that point. But
Also,
I don't know.
I'll give him a little shout out here. he's hit unbelievably with runners in scoring position and 2 outs this year somehow, I believe. Like, he's hitting like 3-something with runners in scoring position and 2 outs in an inning. So take that for what it's worth if he ever comes up in a big spot.
We'll get the nod.
Right. Until he gets a big spot in like the 7th or 8th inning and gets 99 pumped by him 3 straight pitches. And I'm sitting here like, my God, this guy cannot hit professional hitting. And I'm ripping my hair out because the Phillies are tied or losing by 1 and had a runner on third. And yeah, we'll see, man. Anyway, let's move on. Phillies play tonight. Final game at home of the regular season, taking on the Cubs. Christopher Sanchez, who we talked a lot about on today's show, is on the mound, trying to push them 1 game closer to clinching that bye. And then they have an off day tomorrow, and then they wrap up the season Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Washington, taking on the Nats with Ranger, Wheeler, and Nola on the mound. So the Phillies should, knock on wood, have no problem controlling their own destiny, not having to worry about the Brewers losing a game or 2. The Phillies should be able to just win 2 of the final 4 on their own. If they don't, like, if they lose tonight and lose the series to the Cubs after losing 3 or 4 to the Mets, and then they struggle with the Nats, now we're going to have a different tone heading in the postseason, because it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? But yeah, man, very shortly, brother, we actually are going to talk about Embiid's contract extension.
You're fiending for the Sixers.
We're going to be getting into it. Martian, spread the word, though, bro. TR, spread the word. I don't know if you guys were on here earlier. I see there's over 20 people in here now, so I'll give it a quick plug again. To celebrate the Phillies clinching the NL East, to celebrate a 3rd straight Red October, and to hopefully celebrate shortly a wild card bye, we are doing a giveaway, but you guys have to help us out. We're giving away a Phillies jersey, replica jersey of your choice on the Phanatics website. So you have to subscribe, or if you already are subscribed, make sure to comment #ring the bell on any of our shows on the YouTube channel, or if you're watching on Twitter and you see it on Twitter, subscribe to YouTube and then comment on the Twitter channel or on the tweet that we're going to be posting, #ring the bell, and we'll enter you for a chance to win the raffle. But we are setting some not limits, but what's the word I'm looking for here, Scotty? We're setting a floor.
Parameters.
But yeah, we're setting
parameters.
Yes. You have to help us out a little bit. You know, if we're gonna be spending $150 on one of you knuckleheads, we can't just do it for 2 new subscribers. So we're gonna set a goal. We are at 145 subscribers currently. If you guys can get us to 100 and what do you want to say, 60, Scotty, by next Wednesday. So heading into the postseason is when we will be announcing the winner and then shipping it directly to one of you lucky people.
Means create new accounts with different emails, subscribe, and you can get multiple entries. Get
whatever you guys want to do, spread the word, your friends, your family. Yes, just you have to make it worth it for us if we're going to be putting out close to $200 for you knuckleheads. So help us out, help yourselves out, and enter for a chance to win the a Phillies jersey of your choice.
You a Yabusele jersey, baby.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to point out.
Too,
guys. If this run goes well and we're seeing some traction from it, and we're continuing to grow the brand with all of you guys, and we love our loyal listeners. Don't get it twisted. We will be doing more. So if this goes well, when the Sixers season starts in less than a month, we'll be doing a Sixers giveaway. When the Eagles, make the playoffs or have a big game against the Cowboys, we'll do a giveaway for that. When the Phillies start in spring training, we'll continue the cycle. We'll put into you guys if you put into us. Pause that sound. Pause.
We do comedy on here as well, guys. So
we'll
I mean,
invest
it's worth
in you guys if you help invest in us. That's the way it was trying to be explained.
Oh man, that's a good laugh, man. But you hit the nail on the head, Dylan. That's what it's all about, man. Subscribe to the channel. Let us know you subscribe. We'll get you involved in the drawing for the new
1
Phillies
week from today.
jersey.
We'll be doing it. So you guys got a week to exceed our goal of 160 subs on the channel.
More giveaways than baby. Woo!
Just wait till Martian wins and he just gets a whole fucking box of baby oil and no jersey.
We're getting him a customized Sixers Diddy jersey.
Yeah.
Diddy, no Diddy on the back. That's what it's gonna say, man. But nah, it's exciting. It's exciting time, man. We got some exciting stuff going on in Philly sports right now, which is obviously what makes this stuff happen. We wouldn't buy jerseys for people if we didn't have good players to buy jerseys for people. So
Sure.
it's a great time to be a Philly fan, guys. But Dylan, I did actually look it up because I saw TR's comment earlier. Did I see the
signing? The two-way deal.
Lester Quinones. I know he's from the Warriors. I'm not sure how to say that last name, but
Quinones, I think.
Yeah. Looks feisty. At least we'll see. I do think like
he spent the last 2 years with Golden State.
Yeah,
might bring some impact along with him. I don't know.
Draymond Green leadership qualities.
Yeah, toughness we're looking for.
No, but I think it just speaks to the Daryl Morey, man, this offseason, staying active, looking for promise in a lot of these different guys that he's picked up this offseason, but also building the forefront as well with guys like Paul George, Caleb Martin. Just speaks to what he's been able to do as a whole this season. And then you cap it with what we're about to talk about here, which is the Joel Embiid extension and basically locking him in for the rest of his career in Philadelphia, which in my opinion is huge. Not that I doubted it would happen. It's just huge. It is something to celebrate. And it is something I'm excited for. I did not want any more Allen Iverson and Denver Nuggets jerseys.
Remember when he was going to be a Knicks, Scotty? Remember when he was going to get so fed up of ownership and Daryl Morey and the play on the floor that he was going to ask for a trade out of Philadelphia?
He hates Tyrese Maxey.
We were going to get, at that point, RJ Barrett and who's the other dude that played Emmanuel Quickly and a couple first round picks. Yeah, that's who we were going to get back for the MVP of the league. No, he's here to stay, man. He's going to be playing with the 76ers up until that new stadium is up and running down in Center City, wherever they put it. So Joel Embiid will be finishing his career here, knock on wood, barring any trades or anything crazy to transpire. But Joel Embiid will be playing the rest of his career in a 76ers uniform. You mentioned it, the Maxey extension, the Paul George signing, the core is locked up. And I think the ultimate message is, I think the ultimate message by Daryl, not only does Joel deserve it and we want him to finish his career here, is let's just get this out of the way now. And let's focus on the next 3-ish years and go try to win an NBA title. And that starts this year. And dude, as you're talking about it, through the Phillies, we're about to be in another Red October, through the Eagles starting, which football's king for so many people. June and July 1st feels so long ago when we were talking, when Paul George became a Sixer and they bring back Andre Drummond and they signed Kayla. It feels like so long ago at this point. It's over 2 months ago. This team is fucking stacked, dude. Like, dude, fucking stacked.
Yeah, it's the best team that we've
dude, I'm over here excited about Reggie Jackson.
I mean, when you think about like spark plug off the bench, like we at times last year talked about campaign, right? He could come off the bench, give us 2 threes. Like Reggie Jackson can do that.
Jackson
he probably
can
give you a little bit more.
Play in a playoff series, dude. You brought back Kyle Lowry. You brought in the youth with the draft pick in McCain. You bring in a gunslinger from 3 in Eric Gordon. You re-signed Kelly to a good deal. You bring in Caleb Martin. You bring back Andre Drummond. You extend the big signing in PG. You extend Joel and Maxey. The Yabusele, signing from Madrid.
After we see him ball out in the Olympics, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. You know what it feels like, Dylan? It feels like everything that I would have done as the Sixers GM this offseason. Which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but right now it seems like a great thing because everything that has happened this offseason, I swear I would have signed off on it on every single front, man. The Eric Gordon signing, you add floor spacing and veteran leadership, right? You hit the nail on the head with Caleb Martin. You add a dog from one of your rivals in Miami. You take one of their dogs. Like, not only do you add a dog to your roster, but you take one away from a division, or not a division, a conference rival, I should say. Paul George, you get the superstar signing, right? You bring in the top dog on the market. And then locking up Maxey, locking up Joel, keeping them happy in-house. Like, yeah, and then Andre Drummond, it's like the little things like you mentioned, like Andre Drummond as the backup center.
Kyle Lowry's back, right?
Like, Kyle Lowry, you somehow are able to get Kelly Oubre back on a team-friendly deal along with Caleb Martin.
I know I'm talking myself into just such a bad headspace 5 months from now.
And they drafted my boy Jared McCain, man.
Yeah. I'm being serious, Scotty. I've never been this excited probably for a Sixers season to start in my lifetime. We've had expectations before. We've traded for Jimmy Butler in November. He came over and hit game winners in Charlotte against the Hornets and the Celtics. And when we go to game 7 and get knocked out, like, we've had the best starting 5 in basketball before. We've had a lot of different exciting times that have rewarded us with nothing. I'm checked, dude. I'm checked in. I'm checked in for the next 8 months. I put my deposit down.
The VIP experience.
Yeah, like I got the suite, I got the rooftop pool, I got everything, dude. I am checked in already to the Heartbreak Hotel, dude. They are.
The Sixers got the fans fiending for ball. What world are we living in right now? Like, what are we living in?
And that's a shout out to Daryl Morey, dude. That is a shout out to Daryl Morey. He 1000% crushed this offseason and covered his ass, quite frankly, because if for some reason this does not work out, if for some reason we're checking out of Heartbreak Hotel with disappointment in June or in May again, it's not his fault. What are you going to say? What am I going to say if it doesn't work out? Daryl Morey didn't do a good enough job putting the players around Embiid.
Doing exactly what I would have done.
Everything I would have done. Everything
I can't complain.
I know we've talked about this a month and plus ago, but everything we wanted, man. You wanted the third star. You got the number one option available. Not only that, he's the perfect blend. He's the perfect fit of wing and size and shooting and floor spacing with Embiid and between Maxey, right? You go out and you added athleticism and size and toughness. You bring Kelly back and you added Caleb Martin. We needed a backup 5. That's always killing us. Well, we bring in the best rebounder and the best backup big Joel Embiid's ever had in his career. We need ball handlers. We need guys that can come off the bench. We need veteran leadership. We need championship talent. Yeah. You bring back Kyle Lowry. You sign Reggie Jackson. You bring in Eric Gordon. You bring in the youth and Jared McCain. Like the draft pick. The draft pick is 1,000% what you and I wanted. It was Jared McCain or Dalton Connect. Either way you go, I cannot be angry. They go with the Blue Devil. Fine.
Yeah.
Everything he
even
did
Adam Bona, the second round pick, Bonus, right? Like he. It's not that he needs a role on this team by any means. You have your backup center, but maybe he's a better fit than Paul Reed. And that's the other side too. Not only did you bring in talent that we wanted, you also got rid of the duds. And those are the Paul Reeds. Those are the Tobias Harrises of the world that we no longer have to watch play
I'm not even looking, Scotty. I don't even have to talk about Ricky Council and KJ Martin, who are both young, athletic wings. And
maybe they have a role, maybe they don't.
That can help this team. Like,
how does Nick Nurse manage these guys?
Like, he's done everything. Morey went out and brought in a lot of names, a lot of big talent from the NBA. But then he's not only done that, he's thinking outside of the box. And he goes and gets the dude from Madrid, the big, the physical, the strong guy that showed out on an Olympic stage. There's no risk there.
Yeah.
There's only reward. Yeah. If it doesn't work, if he can't play, okay. And if he ends up being a very nice backup power forward, great. Like, there's no risk when it comes to that signing.
Yeah.
So he's absolutely killed it. Joel Embiid's locked in. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be so much fun. You know, I was thinking 2 years ago, I'll never forget, the Phillies playing a World Series game or an NLCS game during an Eagles season while we're starting off really good. I remember we played the Texans on Thursday Night Football while the Phillies were going to have a game, a playoff game that night.
I remember
I
that.
had the two TVs out. I remember the Phillies had a playoff game 2 years ago when we opened up the season in TD Garden. Harden and Embiid's first season, full season together against the Celtics. I had the two TVs out, and I'm just sitting here like, just get me to a time where the Eagles are like 5-2, 4-2. The Phillies are making a playoff run, and the Sixers are starting their season. And I'll be happy. That's all I need.
Yeah.
I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Be a happy man.
Just need the Sixers to stay healthy.
Yeah. Well, it's always a nice little asterisk.
The good thing, they are prepared to keep Joel Embiid. They have enough reinforcements that more than they've ever had to keep him healthy,
Right.
not overwork him throughout the regular season. So that's the other point here.
By the way, the last thing I'll say about them,
Drummond.
dude, before we move on, I think TR mentioned the chemistry. The vibes seem high, dude. The vibes seem really high in Camden right now.
I agree.
So
they brought in the right type of guys, man. You got Paul George. He's at this point in his career, man, where he doesn't need to be the focal point. He knows that. He can just be the third star on the team. And I think he's comfortable with that just from listening to him on his pod, him talking about the signing. So it just seems like a lot of egos going out the door when they're coming into this facility. So it's exciting, man. And we find out that they're trying to keep the team in the city as well. Yeah. So that came out.
What are you going to do when Tyrese Maxey takes another leap and enters like MVP kind of conversation?
Man, it can happen. It could happen this season, dude. He could average 30+ points per game. It all depends. I'm interested to see how Nick Nurse kind of maneuvers. Like, do you still pound, like, pause? Do you still, just go to Joel Embiid so heavily about the regular season, make him the focal point in the regular season, or do you kind of coast, let him, kind of not chill, but just be there, let Maxey be the one that goes kind of ham, and you make him the focal point, and just have Paul George and Embiid eat off of him. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Nick Nurse kind of works these guys because they have a lot of different options. I'm not going to chill out. You know how I feel about basketball, Marshawn. So it might get a little freaky this season, man, with the type of stuff we got going on here on this roster. I mean, we got a lot of different ways we can go here if you're Nick Nurse. So we're going to have some fun, though, man. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Let's move on to our final and third topic of the day. And continue some football talk here on the show. We broke down the Eagles' Week 3 win. We talked at length about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts yesterday. We're gonna get into their matchup with the Bucs on Friday's show, but today we're gonna have some fun with it, man. We're gonna go over the studs and the duds through the first 3 weeks of this Eagles season, and this took some careful examination from me because it's hard not to get caught up in recency bias. It's hard not to look at what happened last week and include someone in being a stud. I had to take the entire 3 weeks in totality here and who has played well 2 to 3 weeks, all 3 weeks, who's been bad all 3 weeks, etc. Man, where do you want to start? You want to start with the studs? You want to start with who's balling out? Or do you want to start with who's killing us? And who are the duds so far? Maybe we can bounce it back and forth. Maybe we throw a name out there and we hit them with stud or dud.
Yeah, let's do that.
Right.
Man. That sounds good because I don't want to go full negative here, but I also don't want to just glaze this team on up either, man, because they've had some down moments for sure. I've been pissed off. I've probably been pissed off more than I've been happy during the first 3 weeks, if that makes sense.
1,000%.
Yeah. So 2-1. 2-1. Yeah, 2 wins, 2 celebrations, but it mixed in there. It's been hell.
I don't think I was happy for more than 10 total seconds on last Sunday.
Yeah,
you got 3 moments out. You got 4 moments out of me last Sunday where I was jumping off the couch and ready to fight for this team.
Yeah.
Both the Saquon studies, obviously more specifically the 65-yarder, okay? The Reed Blankenship game-ending INT, and the Goddard 3rd and 16.
Long.
That's pass. I wasn't even like, I mean, I was fired up, but I couldn't even stay positive or stay happy when Jordan Davis got a sack or when they were stopping the run or when Jalen Carter was batting balls down, because I'm looking across on the other side of things and I'm going, well, Nick Sirianni's just continued to take points from me.
Yeah.
And then week 2, they blow. Like, I have not been happy very often through 3 weeks, and they're 2-1, man. So let's see. Let's go to the comments first. I like it. Darius
could be 3-0.
Studs, Cam Jurgens, Saquon, and Reed, Vic Fangio being included in it. I like it. Duds, Bryce Huff, Avante Maddox, Will Shipley not being used. I get it. We have a Jalen Carter stud. We have a Reed Blankenship stud. And I'll start here. We have the duds of all duds here. And that's get that out in the open. That is Bryce Huff. He's
the big name leading the way there on that side.
$50 million man that was brought in here with high expectations to
any confidence
their sack leader. No.
That he could turn it around at all.
No, if he does, great. I'll be happy when he does.
Surprise.
I have there's no thought process swirling up here. Like, you know what? Just give him 2 more weeks. Just give him 3 more weeks and he'll settle in. Like, brother, Brandon Graham is being forced to not enjoy his farewell tour, basically, because he has to put so much mileage on those knees now because Bryce Huff can't fucking do his job. And it'd be one thing, man, if you got Bryce Huff at a discount and, this guy, we're expecting him to produce and replace Hassan and we got him for this. You paid him over $50 million for 3 years. And he's one of the worst through 3 weeks. He's starting off as one of the worst signings in the Howie Roseman era.
Yeah.
And that's how bad it's been.
Yeah.
I saw one of TR's comments earlier. I don't know if it's true. I didn't fact check this. I'm assuming it's true because I know he's only had one statistic this year in 3 weeks. He said Jalen Hurts has more tackles than Bryce Huff this year. He might, because of the turnovers on offense versus what Huff has done on defense.
Yeah, Bryce Huff has 1 assisted tackle. So he doesn't have one. He doesn't have 1 full solo tackle. Jalen Hurts does have 1 solo tackle this season, so that is a fact. TR fact checked. Fact. Yeah, no, I'm with you there, Bryce Huff easily. Jalen Carter is interesting. Darius puts that one out there. I can't put him on the stud list off one.
I know he's better than that. He's one I left off, man. I left him off because I didn't want. I can't just go to week 3.
Yeah, where have you been week 1 and 2?
Right after week 2, we were sitting here talking about that defensive front, him and Jordan Davis, blah, blah, blah. And I do agree. I think he's been doubled. I think he's been held a bunch. Yeah. But
was he not doubled on Sunday though?
Right. And he still broke.
That's what I mean. I'm sure the Saints doubled him as well. He's a guy that shouldn't be able to be dealt with. We've compared him to Aaron Donald in the past in his rookie season, right? And I know that's not like a straight comparison. It's just a hopeful one. But if we're like hoping for this type of talent out of Jalen Carter, then he has to be a force to be reckoned with.
I do like his next 2 comments as well, though, man.
Those
can you count the next 2 as duds? Can you count Devin White and Isaiah Rodgers? Because it's not technically their fault, but it kind of is, because what are they doing or not doing that they can't see the football field? Put it this way. Has nothing to do with their play. Obviously, they can't get on the field.
Yeah.
But in terms of expectations, yes, they've been a dud through the first 3 weeks because Devin White's being healthy scratched. He's not even suiting up. Isaiah Rodgers, I don't know what the fuck happened.
Is it that he's a dud, or is it that Bond and Nakobe Dean have been studs? You know what I mean?
Maybe.
I don't know.
And
that's why.
It's a good point. That does get me to my first stud. That is Zach Bond, like Martian's talking about here. He also has CJ Gardner Johnson, excuse me, as a dud. 3 touchdowns given up in 3 weeks. He's made a couple of big plays. CJ's in a weird territory for me because I feel like he's going to level out. I feel like he's going to be fine. The big plays will stop, but he is giving up big plays and he's still running his mouth, which is pretty annoying when he's giving up those big plays. But then he has the 4th down stop on Monday Night Football. He has a big hit for an incompletion over the like.
He brings
So
an
CJ's
identity
been a
to the
little weird for
defense.
me.
He brings an identity to the defense,
Yeah.
and I know you may not like the shit talking all the time, but it's confidence, man, and that's what the defense needs, especially in the secondary. So I like what he brings to the team. I get it. He has given up big plays in each game. He's got to be better, and the defense as a whole has to be better, but I do think he brings like an identity. There's nobody else on the defense that leads in reality. BG from the defensive line, he can lead. He brings that veteran leadership. But as of the rest, Darius Slay, he's not a leader. Quinyon Mitchell, he's a rookie, he can't lead. Like somebody's got to lead back there.
I agree. What did we talk about when it comes to these players, these active players and podcast? I mean, and I got news for you, bro. Like Micah talks his shit, but then he like Micah Parsons. I don't want to say the word I'm thinking of because he would eat me personally, but he's kind of a bitch. and what I mean by that is like he starts to go at CJ Gardner-Johnson. He starts to say, basically, who the fuck do you think you are? Who are you? Da da da. And then he'll backtrack a little bit and like take the foot off the gas and backpedal his thoughts. I got news for you, bro. When we play Dallas, CJ Gardner-Johnson is going to hit that field pregame talking shit to Micah Parsons and that side. That CJ Gardner-Johnson is a dude that when you see him on the field, when you see him in real life, things are going to be said. Things are gonna happen where you can't just sit behind a microphone. Yeah, I'm over here. I'm trying to get subscribers, and like I said, like he'd eat me personally, but like.
See, I do agree here. And Jalen, I'm curious. Is he saying Jalen Carter? Or is he saying Jalen Hurts? But Jalen Hurts is who came to mind here. I do think there's an argument you could put him on the dud list. I do think it's fair because I expect better from Jalen. And I think when you can say that about a player's performance through 3 weeks, I think that could mean that they're a dud right now. And that's kind of how I feel about Jalen Carter as well. So maybe CGJ is a dud because I do feel that he can and will be better ultimately. I do think those 3 players for me are in the same exact category.
Yeah.
They're not really a dud. We know that they're going to be better. But right now, they're duds for me because you're talking about Jalen. He has more interceptions than passing touchdowns. I know that's not a stat that matters when you're winning games, but turning the ball over, it just needs to stop. Like we don't need 1 to 2 turnovers each week from our quarterback, right? So yeah, I think he can go down as a dud. And CDJ, if we're being fair across the board, I think he is a dud now that I kind of go back on it.
I agree, man. So, here's where my list is. All right. I got my studs.
Some studs. Let's talk some good.
Zach Bond, number 1. We talked after week 1, all the tackles, the game-ending sack against Malik Willis. Will this continue? Or is this kind of, we've seen this before. We've seen a Nicholas Morrow. We've seen a Zach Cunningham type of performance where 1 week they look really good and the next they can't play. Zach Bond has been stellar all 3 weeks. I'm not sure I've seen Zach Bond really make a mistake. He's filling every gap. He's making every tackle. He's getting in the backfield for sacks, disrupting the passer. You mentioned it yesterday's show. He got put in a situation where he had to cover Alvin Kamara one-on-one, which is difficult for a corner, let alone a linebacker. And yes, they completed the catch and the pass.
It was a great catch.
It was perfect defense. Yeah, he didn't get his head around. He's a linebacker. He's not used to chasing down Alvin Kamara and turning to make a play on the ball. He was locked onto Alvin Kamara. Kamara goes back, gets the ball over his head basically, and maintains the catch. Zach Bond has not really made a mistake, and he's making play after play for this team. He's been great in the run. He's been great against the pass. He's blowing up screens on the outside. He's been finding coverage. Zach Bond, absolute stud. The number 1 stud, let's be honest, it's number 26. It is the best running back in the National Football League right now. And that is Saquon Barkley. I mean, my fucking God, I get it. He dropped the ball, would have won the game. The Eagles would be 3-0 if he just catches that ball. I understand. Saquon Barkley isn't just as advertised, Scotty. Saquon Barkley, is it? I don't want to take away from how great he looked when he came out of Penn State. But we know the circumstances in New York. We know the offensive line. We know the quarterback play. We know we know the no help, all that stuff. Does he look better than at any point he looked in New York? Because everybody told us that he's a step slower. He doesn't have the same burst. He doesn't have the same burst. Just hit 23 miles per hour on a 65-yard tutty run where he blew by Marshawn Lattimore in the third level. Yeah, this is basically what he looks like. He's in his prime right now. And he's got the best offensive line in football, or one of the best offensive lines in football, Yeah, they lost their entire right side of the offensive line on Sunday. And yeah, Fred Johnson and Tyler Steen played really good. But that wasn't Lane Johnson and Mekhi Becton. Those were two backups he was running behind. And it exploded in the second half.
It's such a good point. That is the best our offensive line has ever looked without Lane Johnson in it.
I know.
Like, by far. Like, that is the best as an offense we have looked without Lane Johnson in the lineup. By far. So shout out to Jeff Stoutland. Shout out to Fred Johnson, wherever the fuck he came from. I'm kidding. I know he's been on the roster, but, like, dude, to step in and fulfill in that capacity to where we can go on a game-winning drive with our offense. It was pretty impressive.
By the way, did you see the clip of Mailata mic'd up on?
Oh man, he's so right too, because I swear Goddard was running so fucking slow, dog.
Unhook the trailer.
Jordan Mailata's funny, man.
He's like huffing and puffing. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I'm happy. I promise.
Right. This is a good thing. And, it was something else. I know we're getting off track here. They ran an RPO right after that play, didn't they?
Which one?
Did that happen? I saw a clip that right after that long play, and maybe it was a lie on Twitter.
No.
They didn't run an RPO and lose yardage with Jalen Hurts.
No. The very next play was Saquon up the middle for the game winning touchdown.
Really? It was only 2 plays.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess Twitter was lying to me. That can happen.
Yeah.
But no, I do agree. The O-line, the entire O-line has been very stud-filled. Maybe that's Jeff Stafford.
And that is a good point. I should have really included them. My third and final stud that I have on this, I could probably go a little deeper, but my third, I'm going to give the young kid his respect, dude. Quinyon Mitchell has been a stud since he stepped on the field in Sao Paulo, Brazil for the Eagles secondary. He's been a stud. I get it. Like, Reed Blankenship has the 2 turnovers in the secondary. Quinyon's dropped one, had one ripped out of his hands, batted one down when he possibly could have caught it. Quinyon Mitchell is as fucking advertised. And you want to talk about bringing a personality to a defense? CJ Gardner-Johnson's one thing. That's a dude that's been around the block. He's played in a Super Bowl. He's had this personality. This is a kid in his 3rd game out of Toledo talking his shit every time he makes a play. He has been a stud, and that first pick is coming soon, dude. Soon. And don't be surprised. I'm not saying he's housing it, but he's going to take it for a bit of a ride on a return when he gets one.
He would have housed the one against New Orleans for sure. I think he's had 2 plays like that where he's completely dropped a pick. That's why he didn't make it onto my stud list. But I do agree with you. I think he's a stud. But drop picks don't get on my stud list, man.
Wow.
That's where I'm at. But no, I'm joking wholeheartedly there, man. Q's been great. I think in that last game, he even had a second one where he wasn't looking for an interception. Maybe that was him, I believe, and he just deflected it. Could have got 2 hands up there, maybe. But that's the next step. That's how he gets to being the best player in the secondary in his first season, is by catching those interceptions and those opportunities. But he's been great, man. Obviously, we've seen the stats that show that he's been great. I'm ultimately just kidding. I did go with Reed Blankenship, the guy that is leading the defense in turnovers.
Yep.
He is completing the plays ultimately. That's a joke too. That's a joke, Dylan. I promise you. I'm not thinking that Reed Blankenship is like the better player.
I saw that Reed is the second. I think he's the second graded safety in the league through 3 weeks.
Yeah. So he's obviously showing his stuff. And maybe having Quinyon Mitchell beside him out there, maybe
Yeah.
having CGJ, the addition there, makes him look better, allows him to play a little bit more freely as well. But he just continues to be that ball hawk, man. He always seemed, and it is so true. I saw it on Twitter. Every one of his game-ending interceptions always
Look the same.
exact
They
same.
look the same. It's an overthrow, and
It's
is
an
a
overthrow.
forward slide
Coming to the
two
ground.
hands on the ground. Yep, that's what it is.
So I love what he's doing, but maybe that's something we could say as well. The secondary as a whole, in a sense, but now CGJ, Darius Slay gave up that touchdown against the Falcons. CGJ is giving up the big plays. Can't say that, but I went with Bond like you. I went with Reed Blankenship, and Saquon's the obvious one. I put Dub beside him. BG is my other stud so far. Just the energy that he's bringing, man. I think when you have such a dud in Bryce Huff, to have that type of energy and veteran leadership from BG just to kind of carry us over in these first 3 games in hopes that somebody like a Josh Sweat or a Bryce Huff or a Nolan Smith, or maybe you throw Devin White out there on the edge at some point, let him go after the quarterback. Maybe one of these guys can step up and be the prolific pass rusher, right? But right now, BG is just kind of keeping us afloat with his leadership, being a loud voice out there. He's made a mistake or two. I know he had a penalty against Atlanta, I believe. But nonetheless, I like the energy.
I think it was hands to the face or something like that. And face mask. Face mask. He reached for Bijan and grabbed his face mask, and he knew it immediately. You know what? I love that pick, dude, because BG as a stud isn't necessarily something that's popping off the screen to you. It's nothing. Statistics aren't popping off the page, nothing like that. But for him, let's be honest. And I know Vic Fangio made a joke before the season started, saying that he told BG this isn't don't get too ready for the farewell tour because you're going to be playing and whatever. But this was, you know what I mean? Like he came back for one more year. It's very well known he's going to be retiring after this year. It's, he should be cruising into the sunset, playing a limited role on this team right now, and he's being fucking forced to out-snap a 25-year-old because he can't produce with $52 million in his pocket. So I love that pick. That'll get me into my first stud. We talked about it a couple minutes ago in the comments.
Oh, my bad.
It's no, you're good. It's Bryce Huff. It's 1000% Bryce Huff. There's no other way to go about it. He's being taken off the field more and more as the weeks go on. He literally has one singular statistic under his belt in 3 weeks, and he's being paid over $50 million to do one thing, and that is rush the passer. He looks slow. He looks weak. He looks uncoordinated. Like, bro, week 1 in that Brazil grass, like, I get it. Everybody was slipping. He couldn't figure it out. The very first play against the Falcons, the dude literally ran face first into the dirt. He just, I don't know what he was. I don't know if he thought he was going to get his hands on the lineman and the lineman was going to hold him up. Like, he just did something off the line, missed, and went face down into the dirt on the very first play.
You know what I want to do? I want to go back and I want to see if I can find a highlight reel of his 10 sacks that he had for the Jets, because I want to see how he was beating
his
blockers.
Kind of rush. Yeah,
because I'm just wondering if he was just operating off other great defensive linemen on that defensive line, right? Like where he's coming as a free rusher half the time. How the hell was this guy winning in New York and getting sacks?
He doesn't look like he couldn't overpower Kyle Pitts. The tight end was able to block him for 8 seconds. That should never happen when it comes to an edge rusher, specifically one that had double-digit sacks before. Bryce Huff, dud of all duds. My second dud, Jahan Dotson. Been a dud for just in terms of expectations, man. There's a lot of mouths to feed, and then the injuries, and he's new to the team. I get it, but Jahan Dotson was brought here, and we literally started the next episode with this transforms the Eagles' offense into the best offensive football. They had the best wide receiver room in football. Well, when they're fully healthy, he wasn't involved. And then they lose A.J. Brown, and he's barely involved. And then they lose A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Britton Covey, and he's not involved.
Britton Covey
is
more involved?
Is not being targeted? I don't know what it is. It could be a combination of both. But Jahan Dotson, expectation-wise, has been a major dud in this offense for me. and just been a letdown overall. Not saying that won't change. Long season, still getting acclimated. Moments can come where he hits a slot go route for a 60-yard touchdown, and we're jumping up and down for him. But right now, Jahan Dotson's been a big time dud for this team. I left my third spot open because I want to talk with you and I want to talk with the comment. Let's see who else has been a major dud for this team, man. But who you got?
Did Darius Slay come to mind?
He came to mind. I
don't have him on my list,
that he's been.
I'm curious.
I don't know that he's been that. Like, I know he gave up the touchdown to Drake London, and then he had the comments after the game, but I haven't watched a single game yet, and I went, wow, they're picking on Slay, and Slay looks slow, and Slay's trailing all the time. Like, fair. I haven't watched that where I'm like, he can't do, like, he looks bad. So, Avonte, and here's another thing. Avonte Maddox after week 1 would have been my clear number 2, but I haven't really noticed Avonte Maddox the last 2 weeks, which is ultimately a good thing. Like, he's not getting beat up. They're not going after him. So I let this spot open to kind of to work through it.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like, obviously, we could talk about the head coach. I feel
yesterday enough. That way.
I do like your Jahan Dotson pick. That was one I did not even think of. I do agree there. It's almost, like, to pick someone else from the defense, it almost feels like wrong. Like, it feels like the defense, in a sense, has been better than the offense.
I know.
Am I tripping on that? Like,
I would say this. Last week, the defense was great and saved the offense. And the first 2 weeks, while they gave up, 29 points in week 1, and they gave up the game-winning drive, and they gave up a lot of yards in week 2, it's like, they're doing exactly what they were designed to do. They're bending, but they weren't really breaking the first 2 weeks outside that final drive against Atlanta. Yeah. And while I may hate that scheme, I may hate that thought process, it's kind of working. And also, they've bailed the offense out a fucking ton through the first 3 weeks. Dude, that Green Bay, think about this, the offense scored 34 points and they turned the ball over. That's impressive. But they also put the defense on their own side of the field 3 times, basically.
Yeah.
And they came away with field goals. Atlanta, they got 4th down stops. The Saints, they got 4th down stops. Like, the defense has had its ups and downs, but they have bailed the offense out a ton. So I do get your point. Like, it's difficult to pick on a specific guy on defense besides a Bryce Huff.
This right here, like, Jalen's turnovers and the head coaching, those are 2 big parts of the equation, which is why I don't know. I have not been impressed by the offense by any means. Like, we talked going into that Atlanta game, and we said this offense should be scoring 25, 30-plus points a game.
Yes, but I know you're missing more now, but even just in week 2, you are missing one hell of a piece to that equation.
Yeah, but you're in the red zone, and Jalen Hurts throws the ball to the other team.
Agreed.
You're in the red zone. Nick Sirianni runs plays that you just shouldn't be running.
I agree.
We ended that game in week 3 with 15 points. Like, I don't care how many yards we had in the game. 15 points? That's pitiful. Like, with a Saquon and Jalen Hurts led backfield, I don't know. But it is fair to injuries, especially week 3. They did pile up. But I don't know. I'm so high on the offense. Like, I just expect so much. Like, Jahan Dotson, to your point, he's been a dud. He's a guy that I expected to help the offense in a situation like against New Orleans, but he ultimately didn't, man. I don't know. I'm having a hard time coming up with, like, another third dud, but I guess, like we talked about earlier, it could be a guy like CGJ for what you expect from him, to give up those big plays on defense. You could call him a dud. Jordan Davis, he had the sack against New Orleans. You could definitely call him a dud more than Jalen Carter for sure. We're 2-1 though. So I guess it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's tough because we're 2-1. We could be 3-0. At the same time, we could be 0-3. There's a lot of different ways you can look at this team right now, but there has been mistakes made on both sides of the ball. But at the same time, it's like the things that we came into the season worrying about look better than the things that we came
Yes.
into the
And
season
that's
not
what I was
worrying.
just about to say to you, man. We're talking through this, and you bring up the offense, and I do agree with you. 15 points, regardless if you have A.J. Brown and you lose Lane Johnson and whatever, is pretty inexcusable,
Yeah,
especially when you have over 400 yards. But to Darius's point, it has been very situational when it comes to this offense and taking points away from themselves. And
yeah,
I'm just sitting here, and as much as I want to be not disgusted, I don't want to be disgusted, but as much as I'm thinking of putting them down for how they've looked and their decision making, part of me is also very excited. What I mean is this: they're moving the ball every game. They scored
yeah,
34 points against Green Bay, and the last 2 games, even though they're not scoring what we want them to, on points wise, they're moving the ball at will every game. They're injured to hell. Their quarterback's turning the ball over. Their head coach is willingly taking points after points after points off the board, and he's interjecting. Like, my point is, they're going to get healthy. Lane's going to come back. Smitty's going to come back. AJ's going to come back
yeah,
potentially this week. The offense is going to be 100% healthy within 2 weeks coming out of the bye. If Jalen can cut down the turnovers, and you eliminate Nick Sirianni from the offense, this is the best offense in football. I have not watched a team around the league so far. That includes the Houston Texans. That includes the Cincinnati Bengals. That includes the Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs. That include the Bills. Look phenomenal, right? We know
yeah,
that. I have not watched an offense that looks 100% perfect, and I'm looking
yeah,
at all of the factors when it comes to what's going on with this Eagles offense.
yeah,
And I'm going, all those things are pretty easily solved. 2 of them are very easily solved. Nick and the injuries are easily solved because the injuries don't seem to be anything major. And all
Nick can
Jeffrey
just back
Lurie
the
or
fuck
Howie
off.
Roseman has to do is tell him, you're out of it. You are not taking a 4th down play sheet from
Yeah,
Kellen Moore and calling a play, interjecting yourself. That's done. Then it comes down to turnovers. That's it. So, yeah, man. Yeah.
yeah, I feel you. I guess where my mind was going is like, if Dak was putting up the numbers that Jalen was putting up to start the season, where would we be at with that quarterback? If that makes sense. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm trying like not to be biased with Jalen and his turnovers because I know Marshawn's been in the comments the last few shows about it, and I've been talking to different people on Twitter, getting their thoughts. These are Eagles fans as well, and they bring the point up to me like, if this was Dak Prescott, if this was the Cowboys making these mistakes in the red zone, throwing these type of interceptions, where would we really be at from a non-biased standpoint with Jalen? And I don't know. It's obviously not nearly as far gone as Dak. Dak's been in the league for how long now? He's done the same things over the course of his career. For how long now, right? He's consistently been this way. Whereas Jalen obviously has a much better pedigree than Dak. But it is interesting. Like, are you taking Joe Burrow over Jalen right now? I
Yeah.
don't think with
Yes.
this team, no. I no. No is my simple answer, I guess. Like with this team, no, because I do like the dual threat approach, but I don't know. Give Joe Burrow the Eagles roster. I don't know. Look
Yeah,
what
I
he's
would.
playing with
I would.
offensive line right now. I don't know.
I know they're 0-3. I know they lost on Monday night to Washington. That had nothing to do with Joe Burrow. He threw for like
Yeah,
330 and 3 touchdowns and no turnovers. Had nothing to do with him.
yeah,
There are 3 quarterbacks I would take over Jalen Hurts. It's Patrick Mahomes, it's Josh Allen, and it's Joe Burrow. That's it. I would take Jalen Hurts over the MVP Lamar Jackson. I would take Jalen Hurts over whoever else you want to throw in the conversation.
yeah. I mean, right now, Joe Burrow he has 746 yards, 7th. He has 5 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 62.5 QBR. Yeah, he's playing good.
Yeah.
Like right now, like he's playing good.
There's
They're
just
not
three,
losing
and like people are going to get mad at that if that was clipped. Oh, you would take Joe Burrow over bro. I said there's 3 total quarterbacks in the league that I would take over Jalen Hurts.
I
That's a
don't
bad thing.
I don't know that I would take Joe Burrow. You know where I've been with him in the last couple years, but that injury last year was really weird to me. The
I agree.
throwing hand, the throwing wrist. I don't know. I just don't like fucking with that. But
not to get off track, because I know
similar
we're gonna
concern.
wrap up in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically what I mean is I'm super excited for this offense to get healthy and get AJ Brown back, because I think that all that shit can stop. I do believe that Howie Roseman and or Jeffrey Lurie need to intervene in whatever is going on in the building, and it needs to be cut. It needs to be cut the fuck up. That is not normal.
Yeah.
That is not normal to allow your offensive coordinator, who was brought in here and paid here and handed the keys, to allow him to call 95% of the offense, and then all of a sudden randomly interject yourself on a key third or fourth down and say, and I'm taking the keys and I'm driving right now. What the fuck, dude? That is not normal. So that needs to stop. And honestly, bro, here's what I want to ask you.
Yeah.
What do you think goes through Howie and Jeffrey's mind up in the suite when they're watching what he's doing? They've been around football forever. They've been around football longer than I've been alive. They've watched enough football games. They've watched enough head coaches. They've watched Super Bowl winners. They've watched a lot. What do you think they're thinking up in a suite in New Orleans, watching how we just lost on Monday night? What do you think they're thinking when it comes to 4th and 4 in the first quarter and he keeps the offense out there? What do you think they're thinking when there's 12 seconds left before halftime and he puts the offense back out there? What do you think's going through their head? Because at a certain point, I know you don't want to create any divide. You don't want to create problems. But at a certain point, it is your fucking job to step in and go, yo, one more time of just complete moronic decision-making, and you will be relieved of your duties. Yeah. Not that you can't go for it on a 4th down. Like, I'm not, but you have to watch the game and make it make sense.
Yeah. And see, I think he went, like, for me, and I know you differ in this opinion. You think by all means they should have just kicked the field goal, and I think I would put that maybe second or tied for first on my list of things I would have done. The first, or the thing that's tied with the field goal, would be your identity, which is the tush push. Like, if you're going to go for it, stick to your identity. Don't waver from it. Don't try to give Saquon the ball now to make up for like don't stop overthinking things. And so when I see him go and you're right there with 1 yard to go, and your point is valid. You get the first down. What the fuck are you doing in the last 9 to 10 seconds that you may have left over? 8 seconds. I don't know what you're going to do other than throw an interception. Right. But to that point, you're just going away from your identity.
Yeah.
And then you double down on it in the second half and you kick that long-ass field goal after Jake Elliott has not kicked a damn thing the entire game.
Even
that's the type of stuff where I'm like ripping my hair out.
Well, even against the Falcons, you don't take the points in the first quarter and it's 0-0 game. And then you do take them after the Saquon drop. You ultimately lose. You're asked about it, and you go, well, part of it's analytics, and I listen, but ultimately it's this. Well, then, what the fuck was 6 days later?
You've already
chart where you look.
You've already shown that you aren't the coach that like will go and like adjust to the opponent that you're playing. You've already shown that you're not that. You're the coach that believes in the identity, and this is what we do well, and this is what we're gonna do. So stick to that. Stick to that way of thinking. Like, don't try to go into the Falcons game and switch things up now. Agreed. No, that's been my problem with Nick Sirianni the most over these first couple of weeks, is just overthinking it. Every single game we come out on the first 2 drives and Saquon Barkley does not have a carry.
Yep.
That's weird. It doesn't make sense. And it's one of those things where you're trying to act like the smartest guy in the room.
And think about the confidence. Like, even though those first drives, I'm pretty sure it happened the last 2 or the second drives of the game. Dude, first quarter, first 7-8 minutes of a ball game, tied 0-0. Your offense puts together a nice drive into the Saints territory, the Falcons territory. Take the point. Like, that's something to get under your belt. We can work on. When you don't get it, now you're just chasing those points again. You're chasing that. And now that you went for it so early in the game, how are you going to sell me on taking the field goal the next time? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing in a game of field goals. You know what I
Also,
mean? This
let me
is a
ask you this
defensive
question before we
battle.
wrap up. Let me ask you this. Because you mentioned the tush push, and that's such a key part in all of this. What is good? It's not even just the spots, Scotty.
Yeah.
And they're not 4th and 1s, 4th and 2. He's going for 4th and 4s in the first quarter at the 32-yard line, 28-yard line. They're not. You're not a yard and a half, 2 yards away. You are almost 5 yards away from a first. What are you doing? Yeah. That's not that. I don't care what the analytics say, because I see they put it up on the screen. Analytics, kicker, go. Analytics say go. Dude, the analytics said that on a 4th and 7 one time. How the fuck does that make any sense? Yeah. How does that make any sense? So stop.
Do you think do you think it has anything to do, like, the Saints average, 40 whatever points the first 2 weeks? Like I imagine that feeds into the analytics to the point where it's like, you need to go get 7 instead of 3. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, against the Saints specifically, they're going to score points. They're going to score 7, so we got to score 7.
The first one, it's still the wrong decision, but the first one on 4th and 4, 0-0, fine. But when you see how your defense is playing for an entire half and it's 3-0 with 12 seconds left, you kick the goddamn field goal.
I agree. Yeah, so, I agree ultimately with you. I think we all agree there. Take points where they're so valuable in this league. And to be clear, offenses aren't really lighting up the league as much as they've done in the past.
Oh, by the way, you're on the road in that dome for that game.
Yeah.
Like, you're not like go get points early.
And like we said, man, get Jake Elliott a warm-up, dude. Like, this is something that we haven't talked about at all, but like, what if you do need Jake Elliott to hit a 50-plus yarder at the end of the game and he hasn't kicked anything all game? He's just totally like, we've kind of like trying to erase the kicker or erase Jake Elliott. He doesn't even kick kickoff.
You have one of the game's best who you just paid a decent amount of money to at the kicker position back in the spring. So I'm confused.
He doesn't even kick kickoffs.
No, they first are set 1 or 2 seed to get a first round bye, Martian. The first overall seed would get them home field throughout into the World Series. Record-wise, it had to have the better record than the World Series team in the AL to have home field in that. But yeah, they need the 1 seed over the Dodgers to get home field throughout into the World Series. And then if they get the 2 seed, they would have home field in the NLDS. And then they'd get a bye in the wild card, obviously. And then if they played the Dodgers, they'd go to LA. If they play anybody but the Dodgers, the 2 seed, they'd have home field in the NLCS. So
in the AL, the Yankees are what? The Yankees, the Guardians, they're the only 2 teams close
that can
record-wise in the AL. And they're a game back of the Phillies and Dodgers. So
we've become big magic number people here in Philly, counting down. So we're 2 games above the Brewers. We're half a game behind the Dodgers. We hold the tiebreaker over both. So if the Phillies were to finish with the same record as the Brewers and as the Dodgers for the 1 seed, the Phillies win that and get the 2 seed over the Brewers or the 1 seed over the Dodgers. So realistically, I think we're technically 3 above the Brewers. I think
2.5 right now. 2.5.
Right. So that's one advantage, but also it's any combination of wins and losses. So if the Phillies win tonight and the Brewers lose tonight, the Phillies get at least the 2 seed and move on from the Brewers. So they don't have to win to go 4. But yeah, and I agree, dude. Like, that's another thing. I think that's something that when everyone was so worried about how they were playing back in, August and July, Scotty, when I wasn't, I'm a little bit more focused on them now. Because we talk about playoff baseball being such a rhythm sport and such a momentum sport. And you lost 3 out of 4 to the Mets. And then before that, you lost 2 out of 3 to the Brewers. And now if you lose tonight for some reason, you lose 2 out of 3 to the Cubs. You're not playing good baseball heading into the postseason. So, you need to win tonight, win this final home series, and then go take care of business against a bad Nationals team and head into the playoffs with momentum.
You got Sanchez tonight, and you got Ranger in the next one against the Nationals on Friday. So, your two guys that you want to see what they're looking like going into the postseason, see where you want to place them in the lineup there. These two games may tell you where they're at right now. So yeah, definitely something to pay attention to. That's a game I'll definitely have my eye on tonight against the Cubs.
Sir.
Need to grab that one.
Yes, sir.
Great show, man.
An hour and 45 minutes, man. An hour and 45 minutes on this one. We didn't break our all-time record. We've gone over 2 hours before, but maybe at some point we'll end up.
Must be a good time in Philly sports.
Yeah, you think so? The world's not the city's not burning down right now, man.
Not too bad, man.
With that said, guys, that is going to wrap up this edition of the Phaithful Phanatics Show. We are starting our giveaway. I'm going to get the tweet posted out within the next hour. For details of the giveaway, subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. If you are, make sure to comment on any of the live streams or on the original tweet on Twitter. #ring-the-bell, and we will get you entered for a chance to win a Phillies jersey of your choice on Phanatics website. We'll be announcing the winner next week, just around the time that the MLB playoffs start. So we'll get that gear out to you hopefully as soon as possible. We know maybe we'll finagle with websites because we know Phanatics can fuck around and take a little bit of time to get you guys what you need. So we'll peep whatever we can get to you guys the quickest for you to sport during the postseason run. We got you. But like Darius and Martian are saying, subscribe to the channel for a chance to be entered. We're setting our goal at 160 subs to get this giveaway official. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, have a great rest of your Wednesday. We will see you guys Friday morning right back here on the Phaithful Phanatics Show. Peace out.
Peace, everybody.